Good morning and welcome to Crossfire. My name is Dakpo Banjo and I have with me in the studio driving the show today, as usual, my co-anchor, Barrister Ishoma Againe.
Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to the show today.
All right, talking about welcome to the show today. Today is Friday, and we're starting to begin to count down to the handover to another republic, to another government come May 29, 2015. A lot of Nigerians are beginning to pay a lot of attention to the process of the handover. Some corridor, you have information saying the handover process probably may have issues, and some people are saying it will be and it should be a smooth handover. Now, whatever is going to be is going to be determined by the transition committees that have been set on both sides of the divide, and that is the current government and the incoming government, the outgoing government and the incoming government. So a lot of things are being considered, committees are being formed, people are being selected to be part of these committees. And so, a lot of people are beginning to wonder how and why is this person a part of a transition committee, and then we will try as much as possible to bring you information as the handover process and event unfolds on it. A few days ago, we came on this show and we started talking about some challenges that are before the incoming government. General Muhammadu Buhari, on March the 30th, between March the 28th and March the 20th, eventually became the president-elect of Nigeria. And ever since then, information, governance, instructions, investigations have been wondering about around the interest that it probably carries. Now, on the show this morning, we'll be looking at two major stories, and then we will try as much as possible to do justice to that. And just get ready, on the second half of the show, we will be throwing the phone lines open, and it's expected that you will be a part of this show. We'll be very grateful if you can just pick your phone and dial into the show. Per adventure, you are wondering, okay, I don't have credit on my money. Don't worry. Just pick up your phone and dial our toll-free number. You will call free. We will do the payment. So don't worry about that. 08000 Cool TV is the number. Just dial us and be a part of the show. All right, Ishoma, let's go straight into the business of today. We were looking at some challenges that the incoming government likely will be facing, immediately after the soaring process or procession or whatever format it takes, come May the 29th. And it is expected that immediately they get into office, there are loads and loads of work to be done. We said on the show that some immediate problems that the incoming government likely will be facing will be lack of development in agricultural and solid mineral sectors. We threw light on that and said, okay, there are loads of natural resources in Nigeria that is not being tapped into today. We talked about the high cost of governance. We have it on record. For instance, in Imo State, Governor Rogers Okorocha was trying to explain, to the nation. I don't want to believe it's just strictly to the civil servant in Imo State why he is owing 13 months' salary. And it's so very unfortunate that everything still boils down to the inability of the current government, to the incumbent government paying the debt that they are owing to the various states. And he gave an analysis. He said, just like we have civil servants in the states who are working and we pay them salary, so are states serving the nation. I don't know if you get that analysis. He was able to juxtapose. He said, see, we have people who are working in the civil servant and we are owing them salary. But as a state, we are serving the federal government because we represent, a one state in the entire nation, and we're serving the federal government, so and federal government has not paid.
To indirectly, that the federal government also
has not paid. It's owing them, so and that's why they are owing the people. So government is owing the state is owing the people.
But the issue is, don't they generate revenue?
Not all states of the federation. I really would not know. You know, like we agreed that
I
we'll start looking into each state, you know, as time goes on, and bring about, you know, information of what's happening. I don't think it would be
that bad that a state will not generate revenue and would not put as priority their servant, or their civil servant rather, because I've never had a situation where the governor will be old.
Let me tell you one of the reasons why.
So why would civil servants,
let me
who have
give you a
worked
scenario.
legitimately, why would they be owed?
Let me give you a scenario. Knowing how very industrialized, you know, and business-minded a typical Igbo man is, even an Igbo person, because the women are equally very industrialized. Industry, you know, based or biased. Now, my concern is just that in a place like Imo State, where you expect a lot of young guys there are already in Lagos, and they are doing legitimate businesses, and they go home only probably once or twice, as the call may be, you know, back to Imo State. So the able-bodied men and women who are supposed to contribute their quota to help the state generate some revenue internally, all of them are relocated to a more business-based environment like Lagos. Do you understand? So on the long run, you find out that it favors a state like Lagos to have, you know, an internally generated revenue drive based on the number of people that are resident and are doing legitimate businesses in Lagos State. That, more than like in Imo State. If for any reason in Imo State internally generated revenue is done at all, believe you me, it will be
so
nothing.
You're saying
totally.
The state government or most state governments do not also have joint businesses, which investments
makes them create partnership with other,
with even the private sector, which will also help them in generating revenue. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
So the only way they generate revenue is by taxation, strictly.
Taxation, strictly,
I don't believe
and
that.
Then government allocations.
I don't believe that.
No, but that's what is happening. Why do you think? Some states are really very poor. Why do you think some states are really very poor? Their total dependence for survival is on the government allocation.
I think the reason why we have a lot of states that are poor is
give me an idea of the business that would thrive in a place like Imo State.
I think it's because most of these state governors, these state governments are not creative. They've not looked out of the box to be able to create, to be able to dig out a well of water, even in the midst of a dry land. There are so many countries in the world that do not have the kind of resources that are abundant in some of these states. But then they've been able to look and say, okay, we can actually generate revenue, even if we do not have the kind of facilities that a state like Lagos State has, for example. But there are so many things. We can look at the geographical location or the landscape. What are the things we have in this particular state that is not in another state? How can we, from the little revenue allocation we've gotten from the federal government, how can we also channel this, also invest into these areas to also turn it into such huge attraction, and will also generate revenue?
All right, let me give you a flip. Let me give you a flip.
That are created.
Let me give you a small flip, or a perspective to this. Can you? I just want to ask you a very objective question. Will you leave Lagos State to go and work in Imo State?
I'm a Lagosian.
Not about you being a Lagosian.
It's possible. I can.
Do you think anything? What?
I can.
Maybe you want to probably go and tap into a natural. Hold on, let me finish this scenario so that you can make your contribution. What I'm trying to say is that it will be so difficult for somebody like me to want to leave Lagos to go to Imo State to go and do business. And I'll tell you why.
Why do you have foreigners leaving America or leaving their countries with all the great potentials they have? Why did they leave their countries?
Do they go to a place like Imo State? Do they go to places like Abia State?
Are you telling me that you do not have
some of them
foreigners there? No,
we have. It's
all about seeing the potential in those states, which you and I ordinarily will be too lazy or will be too blinded to see.
Exactly. So it still means, you are still, you seems to still be agreeing with me.
No, you don't agree with me.
You really don't have the people. See, you really don't have the people. Transportation problem I doubt it very seriously. We thrive in a place like Imo State. I doubt if,
so you're telling me if one very innovative individual decides to go to Imo State and looks at the problems in Imo State, are you trying to tell me that there are no human beings living in Imo State? Definitely there are human beings.
People are living there.
But if he decides to capitalize on the few individuals living in there and strike, or set up something amazing, are you trying to tell me that you won't have people living other parts of the country to go there.
All right.
Come on.
Would you have people living in the other part of the country?
Let's not give free
No, hold on now.
business
That gave back,
ideas to
that
Nigerians.
automatically, we're already digressing into the major topic that we'll be talking about today, and that is considering the standard of living and the cost of living. Now, talk about standard of living and cost of living. I don't want to go into that, but into it right now. On the second half of the show, we'll be discussing about that. But listen, the standard and cost of living in a place like Lagos compared to a place like Imo State is light years away. You don't even want to consider, both or put it side by side. You see, because it is very, very huge when it comes to the disparity between the standard and the cost of living in Lagos State compared to the standard of living in a place like Imo State or Abia State or some other states, even in Ogun State. That is not. I can tell you wholeheartedly that majority of the people who are doing business,
you understand there's a difference between standard of living and cost of living.
Oh yes, definitely, and one is directly proportional to the other.
I hope our viewers also understand.
We will throw more light on it when we come back.
Okay.
From our first break. But the point here is that one is directly proportional to the other. Anytime and everywhere you have a high standard of living, there is a corresponding high cost of living. So, and that is exactly what we have in a place like Lagos.
No, that's what we have in Nigeria, in a country like Nigeria, because there are so many other European nations. Well, let's look at a country like Switzerland, for example. The standard of living in Switzerland is fantastic. But as regards cost of living, no.
But I mean, in a place like Singapore, where it appears sometimes when you read about Singapore that it is not a domain for poor people.
That's because the government themselves, they have decided to make it that way. There's so many governments.
That's exactly what's happening in Lagos.
Let's not say in Lagos, in Nigeria, totally.
I think in Lagos predominantly, you hardly
recount. Let's look at Abuja also.
You hardly recount.
Or Port Harcourt.
That's what I'm saying. You hardly will be able to count 5 cities who will qualify for a very high standard and cost of living. Let's look at it. Maybe you consider Lagos, you consider Abuja, you consider River State. You want to consider Warri.
Do you know that?
Those are oil-based states.
But do you know that Lagos is the only state where you go to, let's say Imama Put, for example, and you tell them, madam, give me beans, 20 naira, plantain, 15 naira. Despite the fact that you're looking at that, Lagos, it has high cost of living. But when you go to other states, no, it's fixed. And if you do not have that particular amount of money, you cannot feed. But in Lagos State, no matter how poor you are, at least you can be able to buy something little to feed on. So I don't want to look at it and say the cost of living in Lagos State is not as expensive as you have even in other relatively poor states.
Now, my challenge is,
look at
it from this profile. Your cost of living, anyway, your standard of living, your cost of living, they are both relatively, it differ from one location to another.
Very true.
And another very key factor is to let you know that, see, in Lagos State, for instance, you have people who have carved a niche for themselves and they are up high there. I will not go to Imama Put to go and eat. I possibly will want to patronize, some of the eateries of this world and all of that, and where prices are actually fixed. So I get in there and I tell you, give me this, give me that, give me that, and they had it all.
I'm telling you now that even when you go to some of these other states, you have regular canteens, average canteens and restaurants, which ordinarily you wouldn't expect these so-called, high-class individuals to go and eat, which ordinarily, individuals of the middle class and the lower class, they patronize. But I'm telling you that most of these restaurants, their prices are fixed. A plate of food is this amount of money. But if you want something extra, then you have to pay more. But ordinarily, it's fixed. Probably say from 300 naira above. But in Lagos, for example, you can definitely, in fact, we want 50. You can definitely eat something and you say, okay, yes, I'm eating for the day.
Yeah, but that will determine the quality. It will also determine the quality of what you are eating.
How many of Nigerians look at that?
A lot of people do.
No, those of them who look at the quality of what they're eating are those who can afford. But for the average Nigerian that's living below living below poverty line, the average Nigerian who wants to make ends meet, who knows that he has so and so number of family members or dependents on, that is still thinking and calculating, okay, my house rent, probably he's earning 18,500 naira a month. transportation. His transportation is involved. Medical allowances or medical provisions for himself and his family members is involved. The school fees, clothing and all of that. Are you trying to tell me he doesn't care whether the food has this particular nutrient or not? All he's after is, let me put something in my tummy. Let my children have something in their tummy. So he's not looking at the quality of the food he's eating.
I met a young guy I was going to bring on a show, in the office, and we were talking at the reception there, and I said, okay, with all the problems that you have told me, you don't have a house you live in, you came all the way from the south, and you've been in Lagos for about 5 years, and you have lived all your life at Bar Beach, and I was asking, how have you been able to survive? And he told me that on a weekly, monthly basis, it just feeds on 1 gala and 1 drink.
No,
and that the drink, hold on, I already said gala.
Drink.
One of these snacks, and then probably one drink. And the drink is sometimes a function of how much of money that he has with him. It could actually be a sachet of water. It could actually be 150 naira, water, bottled water. And sometimes when he really wants to enjoy the luxury of a good meal on that day, he takes a bottle of drink. And the bottle of drink sometimes may not necessarily be the PET bottle drink. It could be the bottle drink, the real bottle drink, which is cheaper than the PET bottle. That comes to about 50 or 60 naira as against the PET bottle, which is 100 naira. So you see a typical, I can understand the survival instinct
that individual is not thinking about the quality of what he's
obviously,
eating.
He just wants to leave. He just wants to leave. He just wants to leave. And that's why, the expectation of Nigerians about the government that is coming is that we are trusting that both the standard of living and the cost of living will be tremendously affected.
But then it should be affected in such a way that it should favor the average Nigerian.
Okay, let's look at all we definitely will be considering some of the factors that are contributing to high standard of living and high cost of living when we come back from this break. All right, what are you expecting from the government of retired General Muhammad Buhari? Every time I correct people, that let us stop calling him General Muhammad Buhari.
A general,
retired General Muhammad Buhari.
Matter.
But all the time, it just comes into your mouth, and before you know it, you already said it. We don't have a general ruling us. We have a civilian, somebody who has become extremely civil over the years. And I can't even remember when he retired as a soldier. But notwithstanding, once a soldier, always a soldier. Once a soldier, always a soldier. But believe you me, we have a general in Muhammadu Buhari. He's the president-elect of Nigeria. And come May the 29th, he will be sworn in as the next president of Nigeria. High standard of living against high cost of living. What are the causes and what are possible solutions vis-a-vis all the things that Nigerians are expecting from the incoming government? We'll go on a short break now, and then when we come back, we definitely will be talking more on that. We'll be right back.